Hi, I'm Peter J. Ray. Welcome. Today's topic is the 1927 Cleveland Hornets Negro National League baseball season. The Hornets were Cleveland's fourth Negro League team, following the Tate Stars, the Browns, and the Elites. And they played their games in 1927 in the Negro National League. Home games in Cleveland were played at Hooper Field at East 55th, Woodland, and Central Avenue in Cleveland. Now, the Cleveland Hornets in 1927 had a tough year. They finished in 8th place with a record of 10-37, winning percentage of .213, 22 games out of first place. The first place team was the Chicago American Giants, who were 32-14, winning percentage of .696. Second place, the Kansas City Monarchs, 36-18. Third place, the St. Louis Stars, 32-19. Fourth place, the Detroit Stars, 28-18. Fifth place, the Birmingham Black Barons, 23-29. Sixth place, the Memphis Red Sox, 19-25. Seventh place, the Cuban Stars, 15-23. And in eighth and last place, the Cleveland Hornets, who were 10-37. On May 26th, 1927, the Ford Motor Company produced its 15 millionth Model T automobile, and they also announced that the manufacture of Model Ts would be ceasing, and Ford would make new cars. So this was the end of an era. The first popular car, the Model T. The Cuyahoga Amusement Company, a group of Cleveland businessmen, purchased the Indianapolis ABC team after the 1926 season and moved the team to Cleveland, where they were renamed the Cleveland Hornets. Now, the attendance, there were 2,500 fans on multiple occasions. The owners were the president, S.M. Terrell, and the manager was L.S.N. Cobb. Colonel Jake Reed was on the board of directors, and the team withdrew from the league at the end of July, and the team dissolved at the end of the season. There was at least one Ladies' Day promotion during the season. Spring training was held in Birmingham and Montgomery, Alabama. One game against the Chicago American Giants, the Hornets made 7 errors. So, anyway, the manager of the Hornets was Pete Duncan, who also played. Duncan batted .133 with 2 hits and 15 at-bats. Duncan had played for the Cleveland Elites in 1926, played for the Cleveland Hornets in 1927, the Cleveland Tigers in 1928, and he was the player-manager on all 3 teams. Pete Duncan, they called him Frank. Now, in the lineup, Ernest Duff was the catcher. He also played in his career right field, left field, center field, second base, and first base. In 1947, Duff hit .247 with 24 hits and 97 at-bats. He scored 15 runs, had 3 doubles, 2 triples, a home run, an RBI, 2 stolen bases. Those are incomplete statistics. A lot of these, they didn't do a good job of keeping track of the statistics. Many of the games were played against semi-pro teams. Now, Ernest Duff played for the Cleveland Elites in 1926, the Cleveland Hornets in 1927, and the Cleveland Tigers in 1928. Ernest Duff. Now, the first baseman was Edgar Wesley, who batted .305, had 60 hits, 10 doubles, 4 triples, 7 home runs, 9 recorded RBIs, 6 stolen bases, and 197 at-bats. During his career, Wesley played for the Chicago American Giants, the Detroit Stars, Harrisburg Giants, Cleveland Hornets, and Atlantic City Bacharach Giants between 1918 and 1931. He was a power hitter, usually batted cleanup. He teamed with Turkey Stearns in Detroit to form an outstanding pair of sluggers. He was dangerous in a pinch, very capable first baseman, and good speed on the bases. Wesley had a quiet, unassuming manner on and off the field. Now, in the years 1920 to 1927, he hit .277, .290, .344, .338, .266, .424, .300, and .421. considered one of the best first basemen in the league. They called him Ed. He was born in 1891 in Waco, Texas, and died in 1966 in Austin, Texas at age 75. For his career, he batted .317 with 553 hits, 306 runs scored, 92 doubles, 29 triples, 75 home runs, 375 RBIs, 37 stolen bases in 468 games. Edgar Wesley. The second baseman for the Hornets was Charles Zamfier, who also during his career played third base, shortstop, first base, right field, and left field. Zamfier batted .250 with 24 hits and 96 at-bats. He scored 10 runs, had 2 doubles, and 2 stolen bases. Zamfier played for the Cleveland Elites in 1926, the Cleveland Hornets in 1927, the Cleveland Tigers in 1928, and the Cleveland Cubs in 1931. Charles Zamfier. Eddie Watts was the third baseman. During his career, he played second base, shortstop, and first base as well. Watts batted .129 with 8 hits and 62 at-bats. He scored 5 runs and had a triple. Watts played for the Cleveland Elites in 1926 and the Cleveland Hornets in 1927, and this was the end of his Negro League baseball career. Eddie Watts. Orville Riggins was the shortstop. He was called Bill, Bo Jr., and Mule. He also played third base, first base, and was a manager during his career. Riggins batted .316 in 1927 with 30 hits and 95 at-bats. Scored 13 runs, had 4 doubles, 5 triples, a home run, an RBI, and a stolen base. Riggins played for the Chicago American Giants, Detroit Stars, Cleveland Hornets, the Homestead Grays, New York Lincoln Giants, the Harlem Stars, New York Black Yankees, Brooklyn Royal Giants, and the Miami Giants between 1920 and 1936. He was a fast infielder with quick hands, a switch hitter. He swung a good stick and hit for average and power. He could hit and run. However, he had a drinking problem. Between 1921 and 1926, Riggins hit .294, .260, .287, .301, .278, and .302. Between 1929 and 1930, he hit .331 and .357. He hit .301 for 3 winners in Cuba in the 1920s. Riggins was born in 1900 in Culp, Illinois, and died in 1943 in New York, New York, at age 43. For his career, he hit .285 with 594 hits, 346 runs scored, 90 doubles, 26 triples, 30 home runs, 307 RBIs, 61 stolen bases in 553 games. Orville Bill Riggins. Now in the outfield, the Hornets had Jack Summers in left field. He batted .354 with 23 hits and 65 at-bats. Tack Summers, he scored 3 runs and had 2 doubles. Summers played for the Cleveland Browns in 1924, Cleveland Elites in 1926, the Cleveland Hornets in 1927, and the Cleveland Tigers in 1928. Tack Summers. Bill Evans was the center fielder. They called him Happy and the Gray Ghost. In his career, he played right field, shortstop, and left field as well. In 1927, Evans batted .115 with 6 hits and 52 at-bats. He scored 3 runs, had a double, and 2 stolen bases. Evans played for the Louisville White Sox, Gilkerson Union Giants, Chicago American Giants, Indianapolis ABCs, the Dayton Marcos, Cleveland Hornets, Brooklyn Royal Giants, Homestead Grays, Washington Pilots, Detroit Wolves, and Cincinnati Tigers between 1919 and 1934. He was outstanding on defense, a light hitter, an excellent bunter, and fast on the bases. He had a great throwing arm which was strong and accurate, and was an instinctive player. Usually he played in center field and shortstop and batted in the lower part of the order. In 1930, Evans hit .328. He was generally on weak teams and would bat leadoff. For the Gilkerson Union Giants between 1920 and 1924, he played against banned Chicago Black Sox players Buck Weaver, Oscar Felsch, and Shoeless Joe Jackson. He spent 3 winters as a captain for the Poinciana Hotel Ball Club in West Palm Beach, Florida. After he retired, he was the manager for the Chattanooga Lookouts and the North American Aviation Ball Club. He He was a sports writer for the Louisville News and a playground director. He also was a founder of the Midwest Association of Coaches. Evans was born in 1899 in Louisville, Kentucky, and died in 1986 in Los Angeles, California at age 87. For his career, he batted .278 with 131 hits, 75 runs, 24 doubles, 3 triples, 51 RBIs, 10 stolen bases in 134 games. Bill Evans. Willie Miles was in right field. During his career, he sometimes played first base and third base. Miles batted .224 with 11 hits and 49 at-bats. He scored 7 runs and had a double. Miles played for the Cleveland Tate Stars, the Cleveland in 1923, the Cleveland Browns in 1924, Cleveland Elites in 1926, and the Cleveland Hornets in 1927. Willie Miles. Excuse me. Now, the bench players included George Dixon, who batted .205, had 9 hits and 44 at-bats, and scored 5 runs. Dixon played for the Cleveland Elites in 1926, Cleveland Hornets in 1927, Cleveland Tigers in 1928, the Cleveland Cubs in 1931, and the Cleveland Giants in 1933. George Dixon. Another bench player was John Barnes, who was a catcher and first baseman. Barnes batted .088 with 3 hits and 34 at-bats and a double. Barnes played for the Cleveland Tate Stars in 1922 and 1923, the Cleveland Browns in 1924, Cleveland Elites in 1926, the Cleveland Hornets in 1927, and the Cleveland Tigers in 1928. John Barnes. Another bench player was James Leonard. They called him Bobo. He was an outfielder, first baseman, and pitcher. Leonard batted .333 with 8 hits and 24 at-bats. He scored 4 runs and had 2 doubles and 2 stolen bases. Leonard played for the Cleveland Tate Stars in 1922 and 1923, the Cleveland Browns in 1924, Cleveland Elites in 1926, the Cleveland Hornets in 1927, and the Cleveland Tigers in 1928. James Bobo Leonard. Another bench player was Art Hancock, who batted 6 times, did not have a hit. Hancock played for the Cleveland Elites in 1926 and the Cleveland Hornets in 1927, and this was the end of his Negro League baseball career. Art Hancock. Bob Saunders played second base, shortstop, third base, and pitcher in his career. In 1927, he batted .200 with Cleveland with 1 hit and 5 at-bats. During his career, he played for the Kansas City Monarchs, the Detroit Stars, Cleveland Hornets, Atlantic City Bacharach Giants, the Monroe Monarchs, and the Louisville Redcaps between 1926 and 1932. Bob Saunders. Dan Thomas was another bench player. In his career, he played second base, shortstop, third base, first base, and outfield. He batted 3 times in 1927, did not have a hit, and scored a run. Thomas, in his career, played for the Indianapolis ABCs, the Kansas City Monarchs, St. Louis Stars, Cleveland Hornets, Memphis Red Sox between 1921 and 1928. He was a reserve infielder. His best position was second base, but he could play any position except pitcher and catcher. Dan Thomas. Now, the pitching staff, Frank Stevens was the ace pitcher. He also could play outfield and first base, and he could hit. Stevens batted .303 with 23 hits and 76 at-bats. He scored 6 runs, had 4 doubles, a home run, and an RBI. His pitching record was 4-4 with 8 starts, 6 complete games, a shutout, 74 innings pitched, and 27 strikeouts. Stevens played for the Indianapolis ABCs, the Toledo Tigers, Chicago American Giants, Cleveland Hornets, St. Louis Stars, Cleveland Tigers, and the Atlantic City Bacharach Giants between 1921 and 1929. For his career as a pitcher, he was 6-20, 42 games, 26 starts, 11 complete games, and a shutout, and 194 innings pitched and 87 strikeouts. As a hitter for his career, he batted .260 with 40 hits, 12 doubles, 3 triples, 2 home runs, 24 RBIs in 76 games. Nelson Dean was another starting pitcher. Dean batted .130 with 3 hits and 23 at-bats. His pitching record was 1-7, 9 starts, 3 complete games, 50 innings pitched, 29 runs, and 19 19 strikeouts. Dean played for the Kansas City Monarchs, Birmingham Black Barons, Cleveland Hornets, Cleveland Tigers, Memphis Red Sox, Detroit Stars, and Cleveland Stars between 1925 and 1932. He had a fastball and curve with a little break. Good control was his strongest asset. In 1925 with the Kansas City Monarchs, he had his best year and was 12-4. And he was the only Monarchs... He got a win, the only win for the Monarchs in the Negro League World Series that year against Hilldale, the champion of the Eastern Colored League. In 1930, he was 10-8, and 1931, 8-3. He was born in 1899 in Muskogee, Oklahoma, and died in 1939 in St. Louis, Missouri at age 40. Dean for his career was 19-23 as a pitcher, 54 games, 39 starts, 27 complete games, 2 shutouts, a save, 344 innings pitched, and 165 strikeouts. As a hitter for his career, he batted .167 with 22 hits, 11 runs, a double, 7 RBIs in 56 games. Nelson Dean. Dimp Miller was another pitcher. Miller batted .235 with 4 hits and 17 at-bats. He scored a run, had a double, a triple, a home run, and an RBI. His pitching record was 0-1, 1 start, 24 and a third innings pitched, 41 runs allowed, and 13 strikeouts. Miller pitched for the Cleveland Elites in 1926, the Cleveland Hornets in 1927, the Cleveland Tigers in 1928, and the Cleveland Cubs in 1931. Dimp Miller. Harold Ross was another pitcher. Ross batted .357, 5 hits and 14 at-bats. He scored a run and had a double. His pitching record was 0-2 with 3 starts, 2 complete games, 18 2/3 innings pitched, 17 runs allowed, and 5 strikeouts. Ross played for the Cleveland Browns in 1924, the Cleveland Elites in 1926, the Cleveland Hornets in 1927, and the Cleveland Tigers in 1928. Squire Moore was another pitcher. Moore batted .250 with 2 hits and 8 at-bats. He scored a run. His pitching record was 0-2 with 2 games started, a complete game, 18 innings pitched, 20 runs allowed, and 6 strikeouts. Moore played for the Cleveland Tate Stars in 1922, the Cleveland Elites in 1926, the Cleveland Hornets in 1927, and the Cleveland Tigers in 1928. Squire Moore. George Brannigan was another pitcher. Brannigan batted .429 with 3 hits and 7 at-bats. Pitching record was 0-4, 3 starts, a complete game, 16 innings pitched, 15 runs allowed, and 8 strikeouts. Brannigan played for the Cleveland Elites in 1926, the Cleveland Hornets in 1927, and this was the end of his Negro League baseball career. George Brannigan. And finally, Willie Spearman was another pitcher. He batted .167 with 2 hits and 12 at-bats. He scored a run, had a double, and an RBI. His pitching record was 1-3, 5 starts, 10 1/3 innings pitched, 9 runs allowed, and 14 strikeouts. Spearman played for the Cleveland Elites in 1926 and the Cleveland Hornets in 1927. And this was the end of his Negro League baseball career. His Negro League baseball career continued until 1929. Willie Spearman. Now, 1927, the best hitter in the Negro Leagues was Martin DeHigo, who played for the Homestead Grays. And the best pitcher in the Negro Leagues was Rube Wahlberg, who played for the American League All-Stars. And after the season, the 1927 Colored World Series, the Chicago American Giants were the champions. They finished in first in the Negro National League and defeated the Bacharach Giants of Atlantic City, who were the Eastern Colored League champions. And they won that series 5-3. So that's the story of the 1927 Cleveland Hornets, who had a kind of a tough year, but they were our team. God bless all the fellows who played for the Cleveland Hornets in 1927, and everyone else associated with the team, including the fans especially, the Spanish-American War veterans, the Civil War veterans, the Spanish-American War veterans, and the First World War veterans. Captains of the Cuyahoga, lovers of Lake Erie, Terminal Tower Power, fans of the Free Stamp statue and the Fountain of Eternal Life, Euclid Avenue Electricity, Severance Hall Stalwarts, First Energy Stadium Friends, Progressive Field Pals, Quicken Loans Arena, Enthusiasts, Tribe, Browns, Cavs, Monsters, and Gladiators rule. Cleveland, City of Champions. Cleveland is the best location in the nation on the north coast of America. New York is the Big Apple. Cleveland is a plum. Before you know it, it'll be opening day 2019. Go Tribe. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. God bless you. Take care, and I'll see you next time.